Show, where 6 and 7-figure CEOs build their purpose-driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School MasterClass show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission-driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week same place and time for our upcoming show.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Life School Masterclass show. We are back together and with another show and another amazing guest. I am Alona Lepari, and I'm so excited to bring you on another amazing fellow, very seasoned entrepreneur, and he's going to talk to us today regarding his journey and also a little bit about how do we actually untether our money story. I know as entrepreneurs, this is one area that we definitely have to constantly keep an eye on and grow into as we grow our businesses. So I'm so excited to have Wei Hong. Wei, thanks so much for coming back and on my show, as I was also on your show very recently, and we're going to let our audience know about that as well, and really share with us a little bit about regarding your journey and the topic that we'll be chatting about today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Alona. I'm such an honor to kind of be able to talk to your audience. I realize, money stories, or primarily bad money stories, right, are it's such a hot topic, but it's such a taboo to talk about. I mean, you have no idea how many people I've spoken around the world about this topic. I've spoken on different stages in different languages, and it's so interesting that I used to think that bad money stories was just very much an English American thing, but no, it's pretty international. And I think the challenge is, the University College of London, when they were doing their research and studies around a whole variety of different topics, they thought, because they went, like every human being goes into research and study with a little bit of bias, they thought that the number one taboo when they were looking for the taboo topics was going to be sex. When in fact, it wasn't sex. It was actually money was the number one, like they call it man's last taboo, human beings. And so it was kind of nice when I saw that statistic, even though I was already in the niche, to kind of help validate my purpose of, a lot of what I do is help people untether from their bad money stories, especially entrepreneurs who are here to make a big difference in the world. So that's a little bit of what it's what's so fascinating about this topic for me anyway.
I love that. And it's so true. It is one of those topics that it's international, it's global because of the way that cultures have affected one another. And, it's one of those areas where we feel so much shame around. So I'm so excited to learn more regarding what is it that you see mostly with your clients? What are some patterns that keep repeating on some maybe money stories that no longer maybe serve people, so that we can get that awareness, first of all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the first thing to address is, a lot of people think bad money stories are more prevalent when you don't have money. And that's literally just one story. And in the last couple of decades, almost 3 decades of doing this type of work with the human condition, my clients call me a human optimization specialist because I usually work with the human behind their challenges. And what I found is it almost doesn't matter how much money you're making, whether you're making a lot or little, bad money stories are still capable of running and causing chaos in our lives and creating a lot of challenges that show up beyond just income, beyond just our wealth manifestation processes, if you will. A lot of bad money stories, or a lot of our problem with money, actually, what we found is doesn't have anything to do with money. In fact, money, as we all know it, is a tool, right? It's a tool to help us grow our business, to help us pay our bills, to help us expand and achieve our dreams. And so if we think about how we've been regarding money all our lives and just kind of lost sight of the fact that the money isn't the goal, money is simply the tool, what we find is that bad money stories are when we use money as a tool to activate or trigger a deeper program within us. And a lot of times is I'm not good enough, or the imposter syndrome often is triggered and money is being used, or even the lack of money is also a way to use money to trigger a limiting belief or a programming within us that is creating a lot of self-sabotage in our lives.
Wow, that is such deep work, and it's so amazing how on the surface, it's
Right.
a completely different thing when you dig down and you kind of work with people, as you said, in the way that you do, and the deeper work that you're doing with everyone to really unravel and how things are connected to different things, and then you kind of get into a whole journey of how do we get here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
to really raise that awareness first of all, and really understanding that these are some things that are blocking us from the
Yeah.
success we want to achieve. And I love that you addressed the money part being a tool, because
Right.
I also speak a lot about purpose-driven entrepreneurship, and
Yeah.
we're here to make an impact, and we're here to change lives, with our work that we are doing
Mm-hmm.
out there in the world. And so much of this comes up that the work, the way that we build our offers, so the way that we are charging, for
Mm-hmm.
the work that we do with our clients. And a lot of times it's perceived as, well, we're growing a business because we want to make more money. So
Right.
it's really, that's completely something that screws with a lot of entrepreneurs and the mindset that,
Yep.
they want to hide and they don't want to show up or charge their worth and all of that, or build a brand on that perception of value rather than competing on price, So
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Does that come up as well on your end?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is that systemic challenge, especially when you're a new entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur that hasn't hit seven figures yet. I mean, just to give you context, I've had so many seven-figure, eight-figure entrepreneurs walk through my office and say, I have no reason to be unhappy, and yet here I am. Why is that? I said, well, probably you got some bad money stories running, and which is kind of creating some self-sabotage. And they go, yes. So if you're listening to this, we don't want to wait till we get to a point where we realize, oh my God, this unconscious pattern is a bad money story. We want to intentionally address it now. And so a lot of times where we find it showing up is, like you were saying, is when we're charging or charge what you're worth. And even within that statement, I found, because we see a lot of workshops and coaches out there trying to get their clients to charge what they're worth, right? And that's a fantastic first step. And then here's something that I want to throw in the mix there, that for those of you who are listening, trying to figure out how do I charge what you're worth. The reality is this, and here's a little kind of like a disruptive thought process, if you will. You can never charge what you're worth, because what you're worth is beyond what money can define. And if you think about why you became an entrepreneur and what you're here to do, and if you truly stepped into owning your gifts and what it is that you do to help change somebody's lives, even if you're doing just SEO or whatever the case may be, just look at the ripple effects. If you're doing marketing and you help a business achieve their goals, which then in turn helps the owner of that business achieve their goals and their dreams and desires, and it helps them kind of start a foundation or whatever the ripple effects may be, you think about that is whatever that you're doing, if you're fully committed to that and you're congruent with your offering, it is priceless. So you can't actually put a monetary number to what it is that you have to offer, which then basically breaks away all the shackles of limitations of what you can offer. So what you then do offer as a price point is actually aligned with the type of demographic or the type of people you actually want to work with. And that's really the kind of like the paradigm shift there. If you truly understand the nature of money, that's what money is actually used for in the context of your product or service offering, not for the value of the priceless value of what it is that you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. That was so amazing, because that's exactly what it is. We need to charge for the transformation and the results that we
Yes.
create. Your self-worth work It's internal work,
Right.
right? And should have nothing to do with the way that you are positioning yourself in the market and the way that you are, targeting and speaking to, attracting your ideal client or audience. Once you really understand who are the people that you can create the best transformations for, right?
Exactly. Charge what your market is actually able to do. Because if you let's say, for example, you have a business that specifically work with startups, right? Who are very strapped on cash, but you have a very powerful tool or very powerful offering. And we see this in a lot of SaaS models, right? Where they will come in at a kind of like a one-time fee in the beginning just to get the people to support those that don't have the budget for it. Then charge according to that. It doesn't mean that the value of that software, that platform is any less. It's about what your market is willing to pay so that they can actually get in the door. What does your market think they are worth? That's what you want to actually set your price point at. Now, if you were like an executive coach and everything like that, and you're charging like $50 an hour, no executive is going to pay for that because one, they think they're worth a lot more than just $50 an hour for themselves. So you want to make sure that you price yourself accordingly. And this is it's a big paradigm shift in how most of us have been raised to believe or to think because of the whole retail market and the cost cutting and coupon cutting and all those different things. It's a totally different ball game once you step into a place of as being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, amazing. And wait, how do you think that most people want to elevate their messaging, but they're not really sure of how to attract that type of audience that is willing to, look at the value for what you offer based on
Right.
and versus the price. So based on your experience, what do you think is that difference with the messaging to attract more of high level people in your audience that you feel are going to get the best transformation for what you offer?
Yeah, great question. In the world of messaging, there are rules and tried and true methodologies that everybody can basically cookie cut and follow. Okay, and that's copywriting, and that's messaging, and that's talking about what is your unique value proposition. And there are courses and oodles of books, and you as well doing this for your clients. I think what we've seen is the biggest shift happens when what we don't realize is that if you've got bad money stories or programming running underneath on an unconscious level, what we don't realize is that that's going to affect the way you choose the language to talk about what it is that you do. We are actually creating our own limitations because of those blocks. And it was kind of an accident that I found this because I was working with a client and we were doing exact opposite. I was doing business consulting, work on their branding, work on their messaging, and we were hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And then through just a kind of like an end of a session casual conversation, we started talking about what I went through and what they went through about money and everything like that. And I talked about what I did to get through my bad money stories and eliminate my money blocks, which was a little bit, I thought was weird at the time. And then he was listening to me and he said, wait, could you do that for me? Do you think I could do that? Because I feel like that's what's going on and why I can't get things right. I can't see through what's going on. I can't see past my limitations. I said, I don't know. I think it only worked for me. I'm kind of a weird bird. He says, well, can we try? I was like, sure. So we tried it, broke through it. We eliminated a lot of his money anxiety and his bad money stories. And I almost didn't have to help him anymore with the messaging. He naturally cleared out the cobwebs and there, on an unconscious level, was able to select the precise language necessary for him to step into a greater version of himself without those bad money stories in the way and truly own what it is that he was doing. And his business just took off from there. At that point, I said, oh, well, that's kind of an interesting thing. Maybe it's a fluke. But then it happened again and again and again. And that's when I realized, forget the messaging. I'll do that later. Let's get rid of what's blocking the ability for us to see the messages ourselves to begin with. And then we can step into a more powerful way to refine that messaging about your unique value proposition.
Wow. It's so amazing how the journey kind of leads you into really going deeper into what is
Right?
really blocking someone, first, and then you kind of have to tweak the way that you're helping people. But intuitively listening to your audience, and I always say this as well, aligning your business with the things that come to you naturally or with your values and the messaging and the convictions that come to you naturally, it's
Yes.
automatically going to set you apart and make you authentic, because this is coming through your life experience, day-to-day work, the work that you're doing with people every day. And, you're always learning and growing as well. And our entrepreneurs is to find solutions, right? So that we can get better results of transformations for our clients. So that's really, really amazing that you shared that. And I could so relate as well. And I'm sure people are listening. Wait, let's go back to the money stories, because I think it's obviously your area of expertise, and I think there's a lot of value in the work that you do. So I know you mentioned at the beginning that those are some of the most common things when you're doing the deeper work. You are realizing more stories that people are telling themselves. But what are the most common money stories that you feel block people from achieving the fulfillment, whether it's their life or business, because it's really connected at the end of the day?
Absolutely. Bad money stories are interesting. Is that the challenge around identifying our bad money stories is 99% of our bad money stories spend most of their time on an unconscious level. When I mean unconscious, subconscious, that means we're not consciously aware that it's running all the time. And it needs to operate that way, because a lot of times the way it runs, it doesn't make any sense. So, when we get to the root cause of what the money is being used to feed, for example, I had a client that basically every time it was bill paying time, and she was pretty successful, but every time it was time to pay bills, she would be totally anxious and stressed out. In fact, when I was having a conversation with her in the office, she had her hands on, and we were just talking about thinking about bills, and she was white knuckling the seat already. It was such a trigger. I said, I wonder where that came from, because that's not something you come into the world with. It's a learned behavior pattern. You learn to be this way around that. And so when we dove a little bit deeper, she said, oh my gosh, when it came to money at home, whenever money was brought, it was fights, it was tension. I didn't know what was going on, but I could feel it when I was a child growing up, that anytime it was that time of the month, it was consistent. No, it wasn't mom's time of the month. It was the family financial time of the month, where all of a sudden the energy in the house would change. And she didn't understand it as a child growing up, but as she got older and started to piece together the dialogue that was happening in the background as a child, she started to realize that that's what it was. And the interesting thing was, she in her mind said, I never want my house to be like that. And yet here she was living that way every single month. And then when we got deeper around that, is because it turns out she loves her parents. She loved her parents so much, and her parents, despite those arguments, despite that tension, that home still represented home to her. It represented security, it represented love. And so the unconscious mind goes, why would we eliminate that program that we observed and we learned? And so then she adopted that going up, that in order for her to be a good daughter, in order for her to be faithful and loyal to her parents, in order for her to honor her parents for everything that they taught her, even though everything that they taught her wasn't necessarily the best programming for her, she needed to maintain that story. She needed to maintain that trigger and that pattern. And so it wasn't until we got to the root of that, which obviously really had nothing to do with money. It had more to do with her wanting to make sure that she continued to be loved by her parents, was why the unconscious mind maintained that story, that when it comes bill time, it's time to raise our cortisol levels, raise our stress levels, and pump that adrenaline in our system until paying bill time is over, because that's how we stay safe. That's how we stay and lovable and so on.
Yeah. Ooh, that was a deep one, and it resonated personally with what I've seen in my family as well. So I think so many people that can resonate with that. And that's the reason why I took this whole route of, I'm going to make sure money is never an issue. But it's such a trigger for so many people. And I love that you share that there. So Wei, how is it that you help people uncover these things? Do you just hold space for them, and then, you kind of help them navigate, raise their awareness, and kind of dig down a little bit deeper where these things are coming from, and then reworking on new, stories that serve people? I mean, how did that you do your magic there. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it used to be just kind of doing it on a one-on-one coaching level. I just kind of took each case one at a time. I think over the last couple of decades, I started to notice a pattern, a systematic way to help people uncover their own unique stories and their root causes. And then I think over the last decade, I developed a system which just recently got trademarked this past year, yay, called the Prosperity Breakthrough System, that basically codifies a process to help people do that. And what was interesting is when I didn't want to do that because I thought everybody was so unique and deserved this unique experience until I had more and more clients that couldn't afford my one-on-one services but wanted to experience it. Said, "Wait, can you please put something together?" And so that's when I started going into that. And it all starts with, we have a patented human assessment technology. So it all starts with that to help people see, first and foremost, their unique vehicle self, which then allows them and me together to develop the unique blueprint of what it means to be successful, how they uniquely make money in this lifetime. From there, we can then identify their natural potential, what's possible, so that we can see the stories that we've created that go against the nature of ourselves. When we're able to do that, that's when we're able to discern. Because right now, the way people approach it with money mindset and everything, it's like a cookie cutter approach. We just throw a bunch of affirmations at ourselves. We throw a bunch of different techniques, and hopefully one sticks.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I'm sure there's more to it. Yeah.
And so we often get people, I love about this is we often get people who have gone through so much of all the different ways to get past their money mindset that they just go, maybe I'm just not a good salesperson, or maybe I'm just not good at business. And sometimes people quit entrepreneurship altogether, which is such a shame, especially when they have such great gifts to share that will change somebody's lives. And so part of my deeper passion why I do this is so that we can help people not squander their gifts by giving up or being so challenged that they burn themselves out and become disenfranchised with the whole idea of pursuing their passion as part of their business. So so the key component is objectively identifying your unique way of making money in this lifetime, then eliminating the stories that don't support your true nature, because there are good money stories, right? And then going in there and extracting that with release techniques and all the different things that that I've been using over the last couple decades to help people literally kind of eliminate their bad money stories forever, so they can create a more prosperous lifestyle, whatever that means to anybody, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's why I asked that question, because I think the perception is that it's like so superficial and you just do a few affirmations, that's it. But this is deep work. So I'm glad that I asked that, and I gave you a chance to kind of go a little bit deeper into how you actually help people and the framework that you have developed over time in working with clients, which is so valuable.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some good money stories? What should we be, thinking that will really serve us and help us to make the most impact with the purpose, that we've chosen, which is our businesses?
Yeah, it's really cool, because I'm glad you're asking it, because it's the best way to talk about that is to share different examples. So everybody has potential access to 12 unique motivators that help define your unique way of making money in this lifetime. Yes, there is a motivator that can be motivated by money, but not everybody has access to that. And so I had a client that I had a few clients actually that were in the 8-figure range, right? And people were asking, "Oh, they must have that money driver. They must be motivated by money." And I think if just the last 3 that I've worked with, I'll tell you right now, none of them had access to that money motivational driver. In fact, I'll share about one of them. One of them had a driver that we call compassion, and another one of his drivers was called creating protection. And what drove him to create this uber successful company was his desire to, one, take care of and have the compassion to take care of his employees and his family, and also to make sure they were safe. And that was his unique code, if you will, of creating higher levels of success. Now, there are other people like another client that's in the seven-figure range. So she has creating order as one of her drivers, and also what we call aesthetic sensibility. Aesthetic sensibility, what feeds that driver is the ability to share your gifts, share your knowledge, create beauty in the world by doing what it is that you do, what you're here to do. And then creating order, of course, is systems and processes and everything like that. And so her secret code of success was to make sure that she was always able to present, to be able to share her gifts and knowledge, but also to do it in a systematic way so that chaos does not ensue. And there is a driver that actually loves chaos, but for her, it was all about creating order. And so from her, her unique blueprint of creating success and eliminating the bad money stories wasn't about money. It was about sharing her gifts and making sure that she has systems, routines to go about it. And that way she never burnt out.
Oh my gosh, that's deep. That's
Mhm.
amazing. I love that you shared that, because that's exactly what I always say when we feel like we are driven by money because we want to build empires. It's like, oh, we're just trying to make the most money.
Right.
But I love that you are helping people with figuring out that unique blueprint. I saw myself in the processes and systems and nurturing and sharing knowledge and all of that, but really understanding that it is so freeing, because then you can even articulate that. That is my mission. That is why I do what I do, because unless you have that information, you just feel like, I just love what I do. And then sometimes we don't have the message, the verbiage, the terminology to explain why they do what they do. So you're giving a powerful gift there with just giving them that unique blueprint to really understand what's at the bottom of the needs of why you want to achieve that level of success. And so that you are not, you're always going to be judged, who cares? But so you are not wrongly judged, from the outside. You are able to articulate it. I think it's really, really powerful stuff that you just shared.
And being able to own it, I think being able to articulate it and using language, I think what I've seen in my clients and my students is that they've been able to step in and truly own their uniqueness in a very scientific way, because our technology is based off of quantum physics and science and nature and everything. So it's, really, really powerful. You're right. It's so cool to see, when people actually do that.
Yeah, I bet you that's why you do what you do. I always find these moments when you help, people really go to the next level. It's like, oh, that's why I do what I do. So it's like an entrepreneur, it's like the adrenaline rush or the dopamine. That's why I go through, the growth and all the other stuff that's needed.
Right.
But it's really why, and it's so worth it at the end.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Now we could chat for hours.
Yeah, of course.
I think it shared so many amazing things and nuggets, which was definitely something that I expected with all the amazing work and experience that you have with the work that you're doing day to day. I'd like to keep the show within 30 minutes so that people really grab the best information out of this one. But maybe I'll have you back for sure and speak a little bit, more regarding these blueprints. I think that's really cool stuff. So I would definitely love to have you back. So to give people more insight on their blueprints and the terminology, because I'm sure they can find themselves in that. So, but definitely go check you out. Where is it that they can find you? It's amazing.
One of the best ways is to go to our podcast. We're a little bit behind on some of the episodes, but you go to untetheredandprosperous.com. There you can have access to my podcast. Also, you have access to all the other information that we talked about, and just to get information on everything. And reach out. I mean, I'm not hard to find. You just kind of Google me and you'll be able to reach out. And I think that's one of the best ways to connect if you can't find a way to connect with me from the website. So I'm kind of where I'm at in life right now is really about expanding the human connection. And yes, my business is doing its thing. My other businesses are doing their thing. And so again, once we kind of untether ourselves from the whole money story or money chasing aspect, life becomes very, amazing. And like the level of curiosity that we can bring back to just connect with another human being is out of this world. It's so different than how it's ever been. So that's
Wow.
the best way.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much. And that's actually what we will end with. Definitely go check out Way and check out his amazing podcast. We did an interview together, so that's coming up soon there as
Yep.
well. And I love how we're able to impact our communities this way, right? I mean, that's really what it
I
is
totally
about.
agree. Yep.
Definitely
Grow
aligned.
together.
Heart, soul led mission for sure. And I definitely would love to have you back on this blueprints. I think that's really
Sure.
good information that everyone will find a lot of value out of. Thanks so much, Wei, for your time and everything you shared with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm honored.
Absolutely. And I will see you guys next Friday with another show, another amazing guest. Don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast and share it with other amazing entrepreneurs that you feel will find lots of value from the content we share. Thanks so much and have a good rest of your Friday. Bye, everyone.